anything in this industry, I feel like it's like kind of gypsy lifestyle, especially when you're starting out, because it's like, you have to get your like pay your dues, essentially. You know what I mean? And usually starting in like smaller markets, whether it's regional theater for actors, so it's like I spent a good like 6 years of doing regional theater productions of shows. Yeah, of shows that were happening in New York.
And you almost quit, right?
Oh yeah, yes, because it's like similar to what you just said. Like as far as like there was a job that came that I thought I was absolutely perfect for. That I was like this show that musical like in New York that I was like, this is my job. Like I just kind of was like, there's the way it's been described. I was like, I've worked with these people. I was like, this is going to happen. Like, and it didn't. And not only did it was like, by the way, here's somebody got offered the job and they passed and then they gave it to someone else.
Oh my God.
It's not like, it's not yours.
You weren't even like the second or third choice. Like we just kept going down the line.
It's like, this is not yours. Exactly. And I was like, that like took like,
it hurts.
A huge hit. Yeah. And you're like, what is going on? And then, I was like doing a show in New York at that time, and my manager was like, who came to see me. She was from LA, and I think probably because she was from Hollywood, it gave me this confidence going into film and television because I'd never auditioned for it before.
Yeah, so you're like, okay, I'm just going to branch out into film and television.
Yeah, well, and it was her idea.
Yeah.
She was like, she said to me, have you ever auditioned for film and television? I was like, no. And she was like, really? And I was like, no. She's like, I think, from the moment we start now together, you should only audition for that. I think you could have a career in it. And I was like, okay, this woman from Hollywood thinks I can.
So I'll believe in myself.
So I believe, yeah, exactly.
It's interesting that it took somebody else believing in you for you to believe in yourself.
In that capacity, well, yeah, because here's the thing. It's like we see TV now and we see film now really diversifying itself. But at that time, I didn't see people like me.
Interesting,
in the space.
yeah.
And so when it's a very different thing to knock on someone's door and invite yourself over dinner, and then from being invited to the table, right?
Interesting.
So
yeah.
it was like when I started, it was like I didn't see. Not only did I not see me, I didn't see representations of me specifically. This black woman who is like not traditionally giving you all the versions we've seen in the past, So it was that sort of thing. So. You just kind of are like, is there a room for me here? Is there space for me here? I know I love what I do. I enjoy what I do. I feel like I have an interesting voice,
Yeah.
But to have somebody sort of open that space up for you was kind of like, huh? So with that manager telling me, no, I think you could do this. And then, of course, Genji Cohen, who created Orange, really created a space for me to do what I do.
You're so good in it too.
Thank you.
You're just like, how much of it is improvised? How much is it you? What? How do you? Because your character stands out. I think every character kind of is interesting on the show, but your character, I think more so than anyone else, really stands out. And so, how much is it the writing? How much is it for you taking Crazy Eyes and Suzanne under your wing? Or
I think it's Genji has like said it best since the beginning. She was like, it's like symbiosis. She was like, obviously, when I first got the script, it wasn't like we had a conversation and then they wrote Suzanne. It was Suzanne. They had written her, and I, read the script and the material, and I interpreted it and saw a sort of creative idea that made sense to me to play for the playing of it. And then I started doing my work, and then from that, then she and her writers were inspired to write the longer story.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of
interesting.
A team effort without anybody discussing the plays, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
How much is it like where you just kind of go off on your own, like Mad Lib, improvise it and stuff like that? Like,
it's a bit.
You say some crazy stuff, man.
There's some stuff that's ad lib, there are, first of all, we always do a clean I have to tell you though, but like she writes some pretty funny stuff.
Yeah.
She writes some funny stuff. So it's like some of those lines where it's like, that's not written. You're like, well, actually, she did write that.
Really?
You're like, she did write that. Yeah, but then there's stuff, we always do a clean take as written.
Oh, okay.
The cast always does one clean take, like a couple clean takes, like as written.
For every scene, okay.
For every scene, as written, just to have it, And then they say, like, go for it, like,
really?
Do whatever, yeah. And
that's
so
kind of cool.
They'll roll camera sometimes, and if you're saying something, like, anytime, like, normally if I'm, like, listing a bunch of stuff, or, like, if they've written, like, no, 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 or something, I might be like, no, 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 no,
You just busted it out.
no, 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 something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and they'll give you the space to like,
Yeah.
write, like just riff for a while. But yeah, they
That's
do.
crazy. So I was just talking actually with my producer Courtney about this, and she said that Anne Hathaway wanted to do another Ocean's 8 because she said it was like completely different on set, being the majority, like being a women's set. How is it working with a bunch of women every single day?
It's amazing, and
Is there drama? There's got to be drama. All these women get together, and there's just stereotypical like women who create
first of all,
drama.
we're
with each other?
operating as if like under the assumption as if men aren't dramatic. So like themselves. So
Hell yeah.
that
True.
exists as well. So I think it is like anywhere else, any sort of like intimate, long-standing, close environment. But we love each other supremely. That's one. Number two, I think. It's amazing because previous to Orange, I'd only had ever in my entire artistic life one experience working with all women, and it was doing a play.
Interesting.
And I remember going into that rehearsal room and being very aware of the fact that this has never been the case. And I'd been doing theater for a long time at that point. I was like, wow, how crazy that this never exists. Like, and I have to imagine that this never exists for a lot of female actors. And why is it that we never have the writer, director, producer, production stage manager all behind that table as women? And in that particular case, women of color, right? So I was aware of that. And the way the conversation sort of happened, when, particularly when you're telling a female-driven story, is just a different conversation because these are women who are women, so they know that perspective. So that was one thing. Then on Orange, I can distinctly remember season 1. It was episode 3.
Okay, yeah, that's exact.
Yep, exactly. And they had called cut, and we were walking back to like our dressing rooms, and we had to walk past Video Village, which for people who don't know, that's where all the creatives are watching the show as it's being shot. And we walked past the Village, and it was like Sean Heder, who was a woman who wrote the episode, Jodie Foster, Lisa Vinocour, one of our producers, Neri Tannenbaum, one of our producers, Genji there. I think Lauren Morelli, who was writing the next episode, was there. 6 women. Cindy Holland, who works as like one of the top women at Netflix. It was this crew of women sitting in the Village. And I just remember walking by and again thinking to myself, I was like, all these women are doing this.
Awesome.
And it just made me think differently. This is where the power is, and I think it made me think differently about my own possibility. Because I've seen women in my seat, but I had never seen women en masse behind the scenes really driving the ship.
That's a great point because and I think that's how like change happens. It kind of starts with the people like the front line or people that you see visually, but you see like even in the NFL, there's no black female owners, there's no black owners. And so you see the people who own things, the run things, the people behind the scenes, the puppet masters, if you will, they're still white males. And so to see people all of a sudden be in those directors' chairs and to be in those powerful positions, that changes what the game is. It changes the possibilities for people like you, but for women in general.
Absolutely. And it's, that's why I think hashtag representation matters. When you have a model of something, it's much easier to build a model airplane, right? For example, when you have the guide in front of you, you can see the example of how something is put together. It's much more challenging if somebody just hands you the pieces and you're supposed to just sit there and figure it out. But you have an example in front of you to look at. You understand where the color goes, where this part of the wing gets inserted. And the same is true in life, right? So if I have an example in front of myself, I can say, oh, okay, he did it, it's possible for me too. Oh, she did it, it's possible for me too. Cool. Your visibility is, and more specifically, it's like you understand that your existence matters. And I think that's what's powerful about it. I had this mom write me one time when I did The Wiz live on NBC.
Which is awesome.
Thanks. I made it myself.
Hell yeah.
So I had, and she wrote me because, I was the Glinda in it. And I took the job, and it meant so much to me. She was like, "Oh, it's so great for my daughter to see you as an example."
So
for
powerful.
That part. Yeah, and I took the job because I have a little niece, and I was like, I want her to see another version of what a good witch can look like.
So what's contract negotiations like then? Is it differently? Because it's different. Is it a different setting? Because like you hear so much about Hollywood pay gap, but then you're on a set with all women. So are you guys conversing with each other, saying it, or do you handle it differently? And there is a difference. Like, do you feel more responsibility to like, hey, we're all women having a conversation about money. Let's do it a little bit differently.
I don't know if on our show we're not having just being sincere or like dialogues in that way as far as like when we're negotiating. I will say that a lot of time as women, though, we have had conversations because most of us, we work alongside veterans like Kate Mulgrew and Laura Prepon, and Natasha Lyonne have worked in this industry, some of them at this point 20 years. I think Kate's been in this business since she's 19, who are very helpful in advising and counseling and guiding us because they have been in those trenches before.
Yeah.
And being able to really discuss, just empower you to realize, what, you don't have to take anything that's given to you. You don't have to just say yes.
That's so hard.
Woman.
It's been hard for me. Like anytime anyone's ever like, I don't think I've ever handled a contract negotiation well yet. Like to be honest, like, I feel insecure. Like I said, I've moved around from job to job where I felt like I was risking everything. So if I didn't accept what they took me, or if I questioned back, like it's really insecure. Like you feel really vulnerable. And like contract negotiations go down and you're sitting at the other end of the table. Like, I don't know how you feel, but for me, like sometimes they can minimize you in some ways. It's hard. I think it's really hard.
Sure. But that's business practice in general.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it's like, I think something all of us must always hold on to is just value and worth. It's like always having a solid understanding of your worth as a human being, what it is that you feel you are bringing, you know what I mean? And that doesn't mean to say that you are ungrateful. We have a great group at Netflix, but I think across the board, whether it's in my industry, whether it's in your industry, when you're sitting at that table and it's like really, my sister said to me, it's like, never be afraid to say no or be made to be afraid to say no. And I think a lot of times
easier said than done.
Right? Well, because the risk is great. Right?
Yeah,
you want
out of a job.
Yes, but it's like you have to be willing. She says, like, always be ready to say no, and remember that your yes is waiting on the other side. So it's like that's not if it's not sitting in you. It's like it is okay. We need to believe, all of us in this room. We need to believe that what we do matters. And that if it's not this table who recognizes it, another table will see it.
Where do you get, like, you're like extremely inspirational. Like, do you get it from your family? Like, I feel like you have this like confidence about you. Like, like I know you're close with your family. Where do you get it? Is that where you get it from? Like, no matter what happens, I have a family to fall back on. Where do you get that from?
Well, definitely, for sure. I think that's like paramount. Like, my family is the most important thing to me. There genuinely is nothing that can touch it, or that I would trade it for, period. Point blank, end of statement.
Sure.
And I, again, know what I value, and that is top value. So I'm not going to suddenly now be, wondering about, my job and like abandon my family, it's like that is top, period. So that's one. And that support and the buoyancy from that, I think, keeps me afloat. I would say my mom is a pretty inspirational woman.
She's cool, right? Like, she's like awesome.
She's awesome. She is like awesome. Nani Aduba is her name. You will never call her that. It's Mrs. Aduba. Yeah. So she's awesome, and like, of course, now she's like older, so she's like now like this quiet. When people meet her, she's like this quiet, demure lady. I'm like, this is not the woman I grew up.
Really?
Like, no, she's a firecracker, and like she tough. This is a woman who immigrated to the United States by herself. has 2 masters, has worked her butt off.
What a
Like, very
badass, yeah.
smart woman. The lowest grade she ever got in her life was an A.
Really?
Yes, and I used to think
All
as a kid,
schools?
all school,
Whoa,
masters,
that's impressive.
grad school included, and I used to think she was joking when I was a kid.
What does she have her master's in? 2 masters?
Social work. She has her MSW.
Really? That's what my
Yes.
wife does.
Oh,
That's-
really?
Yeah, she's a social worker. Yeah,
Yes.
she does. Yeah, she's a mental health therapist.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, and I used to think she was like lying. I was like, that's not true, until like one day she pulled out whatever she was like cleaning out a cabinet or something, and I was like looking at the papers she had on her bed, and she had all her report cards. She had her college, undergrad, and grad transcripts out, and it was like A.
That's impressive.
Wow.
I did that to my wife once. It was the biggest mistake I ever made, because when we first met, we were both working at Target, and we had a class of 1,000. And so like we had really smart kids. One kid in our class like got an 36 on his ACT twice.
Wow.
Like we had geniuses that graduated. I don't know what happened to me. Yeah. But she goes, I'm like 21st or 25th out of the class of 1,000. I'm like, bullshit. There's no way. And I called her out because she doesn't act like that at all.
Yeah.
And so the next day, this is the type of woman she is. She slammed her transcript
Of
down on
course.
the table at
Don't
work. And she
mess
said,
with me.
damn right. And I never questioned her again.
I was
That's so
telling you.
crazy.
Yeah. And my mom, to say she just said it, but it was like it was like years later. I was like, oh wow, you're for real. Like, she's the truth. But it's like those smart ladies, and you're a smart man for marrying her. Because so it's like, it matters. And it's like, I think for me, my mom, like, because of that discipline, she always put on us as kids, like this expression that as children, we never really paid attention to. But as I grew up, I realized, like, no, this is like the code to live by. And she was like, always work hard. Uzo, you must work hard. She's like, whatever it is you do, I don't care what it is you do, you must work hard. She's like, I've never heard of nothing coming from hard work. I've heard of nothing coming from nothing. I've never heard of nothing coming from hard work. If you are prepared to work hard, I don't know when, I don't know what, but something will come. And
I believe that too. Yeah.
she lives it. That's the other part about it. It's like, again, the watching of an example, It wasn't like she's saying it and I'm watching her chilling on the the couch.
Yeah.
I'm watching her live that hard work. And that was always inspiring. She always, and still always, my mom, like, she knows just the right thing to say if you're feeling down. My friends would come, maybe it's the social worker in her, I don't know. Like, I would come home sometimes and like a friend would be on the couch with her, like talking, and then they'd like get up and like go whatever, do whatever. And like that night I'd be like, what were you guys talking about? And she's like, that's for us to know. And I was like, okay. I was like, she kind of gave that energy in the house.
I started this podcast that and it was like I wanted to interview like everyday people, like interview celebrities all the time, but like everyday people have like these really interesting stories, and I want to interview your mom, man. Like,
she's awesome.
It's so cool, like, right?
Yes, she's awesome.
Because those are the inspiring stories you never get to hear, like, unless you tell the story forward. Like, she doesn't get the microphone to tell that story, and it's so cool. All right, so I'm gonna eventually, I could sit here and talk to you about your life. Thanks, appreciate that. I can sit here and talk to you about your life and everything. But I'm gonna eventually get the wrap up sign. So tell us about this next season. Like, a lot of drama went down at the end of season 5.
I know.
Are we going to get answers this season? Because like life's about to change. Even in the trailer, you can see that you guys are going to Max now, right?
Yes, we are going to Max. This season is next level. It's intense, because here's the thing. We've watched every year previous, like, a new fish come in.
Okay.
But we as an entity have never been the new fish. And this time,
oh, good point.
the women, all of us are the newbies, you know?
Right.
And it's like that, to watch that world come to life is pretty crazy because we're entering their world. This is their place, their space. These are the OGs.
And you guys, like, it's been this weird, like, dynamic where, like, I understand that you're prison, but it's like this really, like, you're kind of like, this prison's cool, but this Max can be a lot different.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It can be a lot, and so, like, you're the only person, and I could be wrong, I think I know this, but you're the only person or only female to ever win the Emmy for drama and comedy for the same character?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I knew that. So you're
right.
But is it because the show kind of changed? It was like very comedic at one point, and then it takes on a spin. So is this going to be dark? Is it going to go back to the comedic roots? Like, what can we expect from that?
I think it's a reset button of sorts,
Okay.
because of this. Because of this fish out of water element, that's how our show started with the Piper of it all, right? Where it's like everybody was new. Everybody we were meeting was new. Even if they were old to Litchfield, we didn't know them as viewers.
So that's where you got to those backstories and a lot of the like comedic humor, awkward getting to know each other.
Exactly. And so rather than it be one person, we're all the people bringing you, the audience, into this new world and bringing you to these other characters. So there's that element that definitely still exists in it. But here's the thing. It's Max, though. So there's only...
It's going to be dramatic and dark still at times,
Exactly.
too.
And that's what Genji does that I think is genius, is like every single season as light and as she can make it, she always has a way of like bringing us back home to where we are. That at the end of the day, we are talking about life in prison, whether that's Trisha dying season 1, whether that's V dying season 2, whether that's, Stella getting sent off to Max, whether that's Pusey dying.
Yeah.
You know, we always are reminded, it's a gut punch. We're always reminded.
Are we gonna get gut punched again?
Always.
Always.
It's not orange if we're not gut punched.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate taking your time out and talking life with you. It was awesome.
Thank you.